Well, the red light's on, so we should at least act like we're recording, even though maybe it not might be recording here for a few seconds.
This is how I actually walk around in public.
Just like that?
Yeah.
That's how you do it?
Yeah. Then I put on a radio video face. Hi.
A radio video face?
Yes. My radio. That's the voice for radio. That's
a face for radio.
Is that what the saying is?
That's the saying, at least.
Yeah, that's a face.
So, welcome to the video for the spoilers for Stranger Things 3. We are going to get into all the nitty gritty. So yeah, it's going to be a fun time. Thanks for joining us here. Feel free to hang out in the chat. We would love to see you there. So yeah, I think I'm ready when you're ready.
Yeah.
You ready?
It's ready.
All right. Let's load it up and we'll get going. Welcome to the SiftSpoil for Stranger Things 3. Oh, am I excited to spoil all this stuff, except for I'm not excited because Phil hasn't seen the last two episodes.
That's
Producer
why I'm
Phil.
excited. Ooh, Phil. They all die.
When it comes time, we'll just have to rip that Band-Aid off.
Yeah.
But if you haven't seen Stranger Things 3, you probably want to go elsewhere until you have. We're going to be jumping around, so it might be confusing. And then, of course, the fact that, it's more fun when you watch it fresh, right? Like, it's more fun when you kind of, those things can surprise you. So we're going to go through all the hanging threads, romances, jokes, Easter eggs, cameos, deaths, resurrections, post-credit sequences for Stranger Things 3. Where do you want to start, man? Do we want to just rip the Band-Aid off? That we're just going to have to, we're going to have to do it eventually for Phil.
Do it.
Phil, just rip it off.
Do it. That's all right.
Hopper dies.
Or does he?
So look at that look on Phil's face.
Dude, the one thing I was gonna say on this episode is that Hopper is my favorite character.
Oh, it's even worse now.
Okay, here's the thing.
Oh, it's so bad.
Hopper's not dead.
He's not. He's not, but he is.
Yeah.
But he's not.
They leave you with the hanging thread. Oh, what if Hopper's alive?
I give it a 5% chance. I give it a 5% chance that he is actually dead.
Yeah.
And the only, maybe even 10. And the only reason is because I want it to be as meaningful as it felt. Boy, did it feel so meaningful in that moment. Like it was
a good sacrificial moment.
It was a really good moment. That's the only reason. There's obviously the post credits clue that
I don't think that's Hopper.
You don't think that's Hopper?
Yeah.
I'm actually kind of with you. I think they're gonna do boy, do I have theories.
Okay.
But let's talk about the actual episode first.
Yes.
And then we'll get to our future theories. How's that sound?
Yes.
All right. Or I should say episode.
Yeah.
Season. Talk about the whole season. So what do you want to talk about here?
Some
of the specific
big
stuff.
Introductions in the season is the Russians have invaded Hawkins.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes, they have.
And this is what I was talking about with one of the plot holes that I kind of had an issue with.
Oh, yeah.
I
Spell it
don't
out.
understand how the Russians found out about the Upside Down or what their motivations for wanting to enter the Upside Down are.
Yeah.
Like,
Okay,
I said
that didn't bother me because I figure we'll get there. But
and that's what
you were talking
Like,
about. Yeah,
you had an entire season to tell me why the Russians are here. You had an entire season to tell me why the Russians want to get inside the Upside Down.
Yeah.
How the Russians were able to build this superstructure underground without anybody figuring out.
They use Carrie Ells, the mayor.
Yeah.
They use the mayor. He's kind of become the go-to guy for jerk smug. Character ever since Liar.
He used to have the debonair, everybody wanted to be Carrie L. But I think that Murray Bowman, the what would you call him? The paranoid, everything's a conspiracy guy who actually speaks Russian. I think he's the American that's in the Russian prison.
Interesting. So yeah, I can see what you're saying there. It just didn't bother me very much. But here's another thing about kind of how 80s stuff did it. They didn't really talk about the motivations either. It was just they were Russian, so they were bad. You know what I mean? Like that is the 80s. You need a bad guy, make him a Russian. You know?
Ivan Drago.
And speaking of Ivan Drago,
they had the Ivan Drago.
Ivan Drago combined with the Terminator is in this movie, and it is mind blowing. I guess I'll just talk about this now. The references in this movie, the overt stealing of stuff. Stealing's a negative connotation. We'll just say borrowing, honoring, homaging of things that happen here is mind blowing. He is so Terminator-like in some of these scenes. The things that he's doing. He's wearing the leather jacket. He's
riding
doing
the
the
motorcycle.
Stuff. He's right, like it is Terminator, combined with the Russian aspect of Ivan Drago.
Yeah.
So it's fascinating to watch that. The fact that here's maybe a negative that we can get to in spoilers that we couldn't get to in the real one. The fact that Hopper bests him a few times in fight is ridiculous. He would, he would have put a gun to Hopper's head so quick, so many times, it would have just been over nothing. Yeah. But again, guess what? In the 80s,
it's Hopper, and he's an American.
And that's right.
Yeah.
Now I want to talk about the Indiana Jones homages in this movie. Did you catch how much Indiana Jones there was in this movie?
With having the Russians be the Nazis and have Steve.
The Nazis. The fact that he goes under the closing elevator door and props it open and then slides through and pulls it back. Like it's shot almost exactly like
and
that
how
scene.
Him and
you're getting it. Yep.
What's her name?
Robin.
How her and Robin are tied up
back to back, just like India.
Wow.
Those kind of things is what I'm talking about when I'm telling you this show totally gets it. Totally understands how to subtly influence our brains to go, oh, this looks familiar. I love this. Is from something I love. This is interesting.
I think it's.
It
is nice.
I really think, in fact, my, you did the intro on this. One of the intros I considered was talking about going back to having a hankering to go back to Hawkins. I just have this Indiana Jones to get back there. That was one.
That's actually really good.
Thanks.
I kind of wish that I'd let you do that now. Man.
So anyway, well, it's out there in the spoiler cast.
There we go. I was thinking, I didn't know when True Lies came out, but it came out in the 90s because of the whole truth serum thing, you know? Because that scene reminded me of that.
It's another huge 80s trope.
That truth serum thing that they did was one of my favorite things of this entire season.
It was hilarious.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the all-time best moment in this entire series.
Ooh.
The never-ending story between Dustin and Susie.
It's just joyous.
Yeah.
Phil hasn't seen this.
By the way, Susie is real.
Yeah, Susie is real.
Really?
Yeah,
okay.
Susie's real.
And when he finally contacts Susie, it's at a very crucial point in the fight against the
Demogorgon god thing.
The
Mind
Flayer.
Yeah.
And she, because he has not contacted her since they've been together, she makes him do the thing that they do before she's willing to give him the information he needs from her.
Yeah.
Well, the thing that they do is they sing Never Ending Story theme song together, and it is
it's broadcast. Like them singing is broadcast for everybody to hear.
Right, because everybody's on the comms, so Hopper's listening.
So they're being chased by this mind flare while Dustin and Susie are singing Never Ending Story in the background.
Very well, by the way. Harmonizing, and it sounds perfect.
And I actually think that's them singing.
And I'm getting goosebumps. It's so fun.
But, whenever you see Steve and Robin in the back of that, that wagon, and the mind flare's chasing him to the theme of Never Ending Story, it seems so out of place but so perfect at the same time.
Yeah.
And then you have Hopper and Winona Ryder's character, I forget, Joyce. You have Hopper and Joyce, in the Russian basement, and they're just like, what is going on? We need this code to save the world. While they're singing Never Ending Story. Here's the thing. They need Planck's constant, the mathematical number sequence, to open up a safe. But the only person who knows it is Susie. And she won't tell them until he sings Never Ending Story.
Until Dusty Buns
and
Susie Poo sing together.
Yeah. I knew from episode 1 Susie was real. I knew she was real.
Absolutely. It's another 80s movie trope. The imaginary girlfriend who turns out to be real.
Yeah, actually, every single person I've talked to was blown away Susie was real. And
really?
I'm like, I knew from the first episode Susie was real.
I just figured it was that trope.
Going in, did you think Susie was real, or were you surprised for us to tell you that she's actually a real person?
I wasn't surprised. I definitely was wondering. I didn't think that he would go all the way up to that hilltop without dragging them all the way up there if she wasn't real. So
yeah,
I understand he could think that she was real, but she actually wasn't. But I was thinking, no, she probably is.
Yeah, she's real.
I wasn't sure if they would come back to it though.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's the pivotal moment in the final episode.
All right, another thing you may not know I can't remember if this was second to the last or maybe even the last, that I thought was a really powerful moment, simply for the way the show handled it, and also kind of actually goes off the 80s thing. It would never have been handled this way in an 80s movie, but it turns kind of the whole Breakfast Club idea on its head of two people from different places, coming together and finding romance together with Robin and Steve Harrington.
Mm-hmm. When they're in the stall
after the drugs in their
that's the final episode.
That's in the final episode.
Yeah.
So you've got this amazing thing where it's doing that trope, that 80s trope of, oh, you were the popular kid, I was the nobody, nerd, and they're going to come together. The show never tips its hand at this, but she's a lesbian.
Yeah.
And at the very last moment, she says it's not going to work.
Yeah,
I like girls or something like that.
Well,
and
it was empowering because before that she's talking about I couldn't take my eyes off of you, and then it's real because she couldn't take her eyes off of you.
Yeah, she was
She's
jealous.
like, why couldn't she see
the girl that she had a crush on had a crush on
Steve.
Harrington?
Yeah, so that's why she's always like ragging on him and stuff. Is because she's jealous.
And what I loved about it was the movie or the show never tips its hand, and I think that's really smart, and it makes that moment even more powerful.
Yeah.
Now I will say this about that moment: it felt a little inauthentic to how that moment would have played out in the 80s. The 80s was a very different time, and I don't even just mean for my religious upbringing, kind of world. I think culturally in general in America, it was a very different time and understanding of what homosexuality was and those kind of things.
It was a very modern response.
It was a very modern response,
but
from
actually
Steve.
he was okay with it.
I'm fine with it. I really am.
I see Steve just being like, "Hey, I don't care, man."
Yeah,
I can see Steve being that kind of guy.
That wasn't likely to happen in the small town mid America.
Yes, exactly, exactly. So again, I'm fine with it. I actually think it's really beautiful and a really neat thing. But I did have that moment where I was like, this is kind of different than the rest because it actually does modernize it in a way that it's not using the same tropes as the 80s. So it kind of stood out to me, even though I liked it. So that was interesting to me.
Lucas's sister Erica.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Operation Child Endangerment is so funny. I'm assuming you've got to that part where
I really love the scene where she opens the hatch, the garage or the door or whatever, and she goes, "Free ice cream for life."
Yeah. And I love her.
Can I just say real quickly?
Yeah.
Since we're there at the opening into the secret Russian lair, how that was completely unguarded for the second half of the season. Like everybody was able just to go in and out of there. Like I mean, even after times when Russians knew that there had been people who have invaded, nobody's guarding the only entrance in from that side. Like
even after they tell them that after the true serum, an
hour, 2 hours, 4 hours later, people are still just kind of using that elevator to go down in. It's like, what? How does that happen?
Yeah.
So, anyways, that was just one of those minor things.
Yeah. Man, Joyce has really fallen by the wayside because she was the best part of season 1.
Yeah. She's great in this, though.
Yeah, she's
Her
still
stuff
good.
with Hopper is really interesting and fun. Man, that moment that you haven't seen where she finally basically asks him out on a date.
Yeah.
And by the way, this is right before he
dies,
gives his life to save them.
Yeah.
So, I found that really powerful and meaningful and cute, and, it was so great when he was like...
They turn into the kids they're trying to save.
Right, yeah. And he's like, I can't be out late Friday night because Elle and I watch Miami Vice together. And it's just like, it's kind of one of those things.
Yeah.
So that was a lot of fun.
All right, I want to talk about Hopper theories.
Oh, you want to get into the future? We're done with the episode?
Unless you can think... Because we could talk about Billy's transition to saving.
Let's do that.
Because that's powerful.
Yeah.
I actually think...
I don't know that it's fully earned, though.
Really?
Again, these are minor things that I'm not going to dock it too much for, but it's a little convenient that somehow... I don't understand that power of hers. I don't understand what it is where she can go back, where she can find people. It's one
where
thing...
she washes up on the Inception shore.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, this is different and new and completely only exists so that she can have information about him to turn him at the end.
Yeah.
And why does that information turn him? We've never seen anything about how, knowing what your emotional core is will actually save you from being, infected. So
I don't know that I agree with that. at the end of season 2, they did that with Will, like where each one of them takes turns and like reminds him of like memories that they've had with
Ooh,
him.
okay.
And kind of
Fair
pull
enough.
him out because he was being inhabited by the mind flayer.
That's true. Whenever
at the
they
end of
have him
season 2.
in the cabin and they're like
The only
burning
reason
him out.
that the mind flayer like leaves his body, like comes out of his mouth, is because they've like appealed to his emotional side.
See,
Fair enough.
He just watched season 2.
No, good. That's good. So the homework for that was done in a previous season, and I had just forgotten about that.
Yeah.
But still, the L stuff is kind of convenient. That her power that I thought was just that she could locate people and hear what's going on in their world,
As well as telekinesis.
She had, as long as she had the static behind her, and of course the telekinesis.
Yeah.
I all of a sudden it's also I'm seeing your memories.
Yeah.
Like that's totally different. Like that's not something I think we've seen her do before. But
Yeah.
So, anyways, I did find that a little bit convenient, but it's still powerful. You know, it's still saying something about everybody's got a reason they've gone through a journey.
Yeah. And if your name starts with the B, you're gonna die.
Is that how it works?
Barb, Bob, Billy.
There you go.
Yeah.
The B team.
Yep. Yeah. There was a reference to Barb in this, wasn't there?
Yes.
Like
at the end, when there was a news report and they were like, several mysterious deaths happened before this, and it showed Barb and Bob. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
So, is there anything else that you really want to talk about before we get into the Hopper theories?
I'll probably think of other things, but we can go ahead and theorize if we want to jump back. I mean, hey, it's our show; we can do whatever we want.
Sure. Here's my big theory.
Yeah.
I think he jumps in the inside or the upside down.
Yes.
Through the gate.
Yes.
To survive.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what you think too?
Yes.
Okay.
Ish. I have other things that I believe.
Do you think that like Elle saved him somehow, or?
When you're ready for this, I will lay it on you, man.
Oh, lay it on.
I think season 4 is time travel. I think
No.
I know, but we got all the hints with Back to the Future stuff. There are some very interesting things they say about that movie. There are some let me see if I can pull up Hopper's note. His note is fascinating. So there's this note, and Phil, you haven't seen this, that he wrote a note to teach him that was supposed to help him know what to say to her and Will to keep them from being together. Well, he eventually abandons that note halfway through and actually writes like a note himself from the heart that's like emotional. It's really this beautiful scene. So there are some things in there that he says, man, I wish I could pull it up in front of me. Let me see if I can. Season 3 note. But there are some things in there that all have to do with going back in time, those kind of things. He also ends the note by saying, leave the door open 3 inches for me. I think that's about the I think that's about the rift.
Yeah.
And so I think he actually wrote that note after all these events happened. I think he added that stuff after. In that he has gone back in time and that he has the ability from the upside down back in time to change things that are happening. I think we'll see that Hopper has done some other things from the past that have, helped our crew, that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. I think that's where we're headed, is a Back to the Future kind of homage in season 4.
Okay.
So it's scary because I hate, time. It's hard to do time travel right.
But it's also an 80s trope.
It is very much an 80s trope. So it's interesting. I think I have Hopper's letter here. So let me see if I can pull it up.
So I'm wondering...
Oh, yes. Here, I got it.
Okay.
All right. The truth is for feelings. The truth is for so long I'd forgotten what those even were. This is trying to jump me back to a video. So stupid internet.
Yeah, internet's great about that.
I've been stuck in one place. Maybe like the cell, the Russian cell. I've been stuck in one place, in a cave, you might say, a deep, dark cave. And then I left some Egos out in the woods and you came into my life. For the first time in a long time, I started to, there's time.
Yeah.
I started to feel things again. I started to feel happy. But lately, I guess I've been feeling distant from you. Like you're pulling away from me or something. And she moves. with the
Yeah, she moves with
the
Winona and them.
I miss playing board games every night, making triple-decker Eggo extravaganza at sunrise, watching westerns together before we doze off. But I know you're getting older, growing, changing, I guess. If I'm being really honest, that's what scares me. I don't want things to change. So I think maybe that's why I came in here, to try and stop that change, to turn back the clock, to make things go back to how they were. But I know that's naive. It's just not how life works. It's moving, always moving, whether you like it or not. And yeah, sometimes it's painful, sometimes it's sad, and sometimes it's surprising, happy. So you know what? Keep on growing up, kid. Don't let me stop you. Make mistakes, learn from them. When life hurts you, because it will, remember the hurt. The hurt is good. It means you're out of the cave. But please, if you don't mind, for the sake of your poor old dad, keep the door open 3 inches.
Yeah.
Right? Like, isn't that interesting when you start to think of it in a different kind of... I really wonder if he wrote this from the future somehow into their past.
Yeah. After you're reading it, I think it can also be interpreted as he wrote it from the upside down. Like, watching her, because, like, the upside down is just a mirror of everything. So her moving away could actually be, her actually getting further away from where he is at the cabin in the upside down.
There's another interesting thing that happens, and this one I heard actually on another podcast that kind of was talking about some things too. But I do remember feeling, strange about it. It's a strange ending to that final episode because it literally goes back in time. They all leave, drive away, and then it goes back to her reading this letter, and they leave again.
Yeah.
So it's really because structurally that doesn't make sense. Like, that's a weird edit, right? Like that mess. My wife even said something. She's like, "Why did they do that?" Like, we jumped back in time, and that's actually kind of started me thinking about the time stuff. You know, like maybe that's another nod to that time travel is coming. Is that they actually time travel in those last few scenes?
Yeah.
I don't mean literally in the story. I just mean editing wise, they time travel. Yeah. So I don't know. I really think season 4 is about time travel. It worries me. It excites me because it's it's Stranger Things. But
but we gotta wait a full year.
Yeah. Is it gonna be next year?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I always count down like, man, it's way too long before next season of Stranger Things.
Yeah.
So going into the Russian gulag in the post-credit scene.
Yes. I actually think that's Hopper. I do think that's Hopper.
You think that's Hopper?
I think that's Hopper.
Okay.
The American that they talk about.
Yeah. And because
I also think it's the past.
Oh, okay.
So
because it's the original Demogorgon that is released?
Yep.
Okay. I just thought that was okay, so...
Because that was one of the questions I was asking was, why is there an actual Demogorgon?
It's not a Demodog. It's a Demogorgon.
The Demogorgon. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are they saying that this underground layer that they've created, the Russians, has been there for years and years?
No.
Okay.
This is in Russia. At the end, it goes to Russia.
They are in Russia.
They are definitely in Russia. And it also probably starts to answer your questions of, why the Russians are interested. They were on this before us, is what I'm guessing. And I'm guessing that post-credit scene is actually from the past.
Okay.
And that Hopper is the one in the cell.
Okay. Oh, so you're thinking that the Demogorgon has been in our world
before
season 1.
And they've been chasing it since then.
Yeah.
Because they know something about its powers.
Oh. If that's the route they go, I am 100% on board.
Yeah.
That it's the Russians who first opened the gate and that the Hawkins lab have been on the heels of the Russians, because normally, the trope is the Russians are on the heels of America,
Right.
So if this is, the actual case, in that...
You like my theory?
I actually do. I actually do like your theory. Now that I'm breaking it down with the whole Back to the Future thing, and the nods, it's making more and more sense that's the route that they would go, and I'm okay with it. Yeah. I really do like that. I really, really do.
I don't know. I just started thinking of the things that started lining up, in the letter. The letter thing is great on its own, but then he gets to those 2 lines where he says, literally the whole sentence is to turn back the clock. Then the next sentence is to make things go back to how they were. Yeah. Like, there's just that imagery is so time specific.
Yeah.
And it could, and at the end of the day, it could all just be a hint that they're going to do time travel in season 4, and it may not mean as much as I've made it mean. But I think there's a lot of stuff there that kind of works, kind of makes sense, you know?
And that's why I was, my whole thing of him going into the Upside Down was to leave the door open 3 inches for him.
No, I agree. I think he does go, I think he goes back in time. He has to fight his way out somehow and jump into the Upside Down, thinking that the Upside Down is his way back to the present, and then experiencing the Upside Down maybe has a different time element to it where he can actually interact with different times in the Upside Down and then come out of it, you know, later.
Possibly because if you think of season 1, it looks like Barb and Will were in the Upside Down for a very long time when actually it was just a couple days, right?
Right.
So possibly there is a time element. Because, who knows how long the Mind Flayer was actually plotting to enter. I like how, they said, we closed the gate with the Mind Flayer on this side because of, he was inside Will when we closed the gate. Right. It makes sense.
It does. It does. Can we talk about how gross the Mind Flayer is?
It's some of the most disgusting stuff I've seen in the entire series.
When he sinks down the sewer and leaves a part of the femur bone, I'm
so gross.
I get it, man. I actually like how they build that idea with the rats first and then the humans, and it doesn't spoon feed it to you. That's really gross. It doesn't make it very overt, but at the same time you figure it out.
Well, they talk about it in the D&D game.
Oh, do they?
The zombies.
Well, but no, I'm not talking about zombies. I'm talking about the actual creating himself from the goo and bones.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's very reminiscent of The Blob, a classic 80s movie,
Sure.
So you have that. And then you have the zombie element, which is,
You know what would have made it even grosser and more creepy? Is if when he screamed, all those rows of teeth were human teeth.
He kept the teeth.
He used the teeth. How did he make his teeth? I mean, sure, he just used shards of bone, but that's. I think that would have been probably funny. Kind of a Sonic the Hedgehog kind of vibe with human teeth.
Well, they're fixing that.
Yeah, apparently they're done fixing that.
The thing that I've really enjoyed watching all 3 seasons back to back to back has been watching the evolution of Eleven's powers. Like, she has gotten, leveled up.
Well, more great news for you, Phil.
And I can't wait to see the ending. But
she loses her powers.
She loses all of her powers.
What?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
And she kind of had to. Honestly, she had to for that final fight. She was too powerful.
Gotcha.
She tears this giant Mind Flayer in half basically during one of the fight scenes in the final. And
that was actually a really cool scene in the cabin,
which is not going to kill it obviously because it's made up of a bunch of slimy pieces that can come back together anyway. And I find that fascinating. But here's an interesting thing. I haven't gone back and watched it. I need to. The question is, why did she lose her powers? It happens right after she gets bit in the leg by the Mind Flayer, and part of it stays in her, like crawls off. The Mind Flayer is actually in her.
Yeah.
And then she uses her own powers eventually. I think Jonathan tries to cut it out first.
Yeah, and then she's like, wait, I can do it.
And she uses her telekinesis powers to pull this thing out of her leg, right?
And that's the last time she uses
and that's the last time she uses any of her powers.
She can use her powers.
I think the last time she's able, she tries several other times to do things and she just can't. What's interesting is, I think if I remember correctly, that little thing that flew out of her leg didn't fly very far. And I think, when she was moving the car, she moved an entire car, and it just flies across the entire thing.
Yeah.
I think as soon as that thing was out of her leg, she lost her powers, and it just dropped.
Yeah.
It was kind of one of those things. So that also brings me to another thing I loved about this that we can talk about in spoilers, is how many arrival moments there are. And I don't mean the movie, I just mean people arriving. And
where Hopper steps on.
I always get goosebumps.
Yeah.
Every single one of them. Anytime somebody new is coming on the scene, they have this big moment where the camera pans up to them and it's like, gun, 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 they're there. And it's just like, I love it.
Well, because she pulls it out, and then I think it was Luke is like punts it away, and then it starts to like crawl away, and then Hopper steps on it, and it's Hopper, Murray, and Joyce standing there, and you're like, oh yeah.
And they do the same thing with the fireworks, at the end, where it's like, they use the fireworks to distract the mind flayer, and I don't know, they just have, there's so many, I mean, in the CinemaSins universe, we call them ex machina moments, where just something at the last second will happen to save somebody. This season was like ex machina the season. Like there's so many of those moments. The car moment where Steve arrives and knocks the car,
knocks Billy's car out of the way.
Yeah, and it's just like and they're shameless, man. I'm telling you, the Duffer Brothers are absolutely shameless, and I love it. They're like, we don't care. We know it's a trope.
Yeah.
We're doing a show with a bunch of 80s tropes. We're just gonna keep going back to that well. And I'm like, my goosebumps don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just really enjoyed like any fight scene that she was in any season, but like this season specifically when she's fighting Billy mid-season, and like she like slams him up against one wall and then the other wall and then the ceiling and then the floor and then just throws him out a window. Like I'm just like every time that something like that happens, I'm just like, man, that's awesome. Like I wish I could do that.
Can I ask you, as a comic person, did Elle's shirt look very X-Men-ish? With the yellow and the black and I don't know, there was something about it, I was like, she almost looks like a comic book. She feels very Dark Phoenix to me. Like she feels very Jean Grey to me in a lot of ways.
I would have said that more about her appearance last season, with the black trench coat and, the slicked, greased back hair, whenever she's closing the gate with Hopper, that big moment where she actually lifts up. That was a very Phoenix moment for me. Maybe it's just because the X-Men movies recently, they really laid into the black leather spandex kind of element to it. I could probably.
I just thought they had a yellow suit. I would
have to go back and watch.
Maybe I'm thinking Wolverine. Wolverine has a yellow and black suit, doesn't he?
Well, if you go back to the classic, 80s, that X-Men animated show, they're wearing yellow. Okay. Yeah, they're wearing yellow.
They look
spandex.
like bumblebees, kind of.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
They named the big tower Cerebro.
They do call it Cerebro. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which
so there's fun stuff like that.
Yeah.
Do you think that they will ever introduce other numbered people?
They do.
I mean, they have, right?
They do.
Yeah, 8 was in season 2.
And I'm on record saying that was a huge mistake.
That was the worst episode.
They were not ready to expand beyond Hawkins yet.
I thought for sure they would involve her more in the plot of season 2, and then she's just gone, and she never comes back, and then she never comes back in this season either. Correct?
Well, I think the Duffer Brothers actually said, okay, it was a mistake to do that, so we're just not going to do it again.
Yeah, I think and that's okay with me. It didn't really introduce enough for me to be like, I've got to explore that more. I'm fine with it disappearing. It can just be the fact that there are other, experimented people or whatever, and maybe that's a spin-off.
That was one of the strangest choices in the whole series.
Well, they just wanted to see if it would work, and it just didn't.
All right, it's official. When my computer has died, it's
time to wrap it up.
So no, we don't have to wrap it up. It just means we
can't look up stuff.
No, we've enjoyed talking about something, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
If we get to the point where my computer dies, we have definitely enjoyed ourselves.
Now it's time to talk about Stuber.
Yeah. No, that's not happening.
That.
Yeah. I really enjoy watching 11 and Max together, like their friendship and their camaraderie, like against the boys, the icky boys or whatever. Like
that was fun.
I loved watching them.
The whole mall scene was great.
Yeah. Which one? There were several.
But I'm talking about the mall montage with Max and Elle, where she's I'm not supposed to be around big groups of people,
Oh, and when she spies on them and they're just,
farting,
burping and farting and,
and other species.
Talking trash and other species, that kind of thing. Yeah, it deals with that stuff really well. I really enjoy everybody's dynamic. I think it's great. The whole Scoops Ahoy thing is great. I just love it so much. The way Steve Harrington, puts his scooper away.
Little flip.
Yeah, with the little flip.
And he drops it sometimes.
Yes.
I think Steve is my favorite character in the show. I think Steve is. Either him or Dustin or Steve and Dustin. Just that group. It's got to be those two. I just love them so much. But I think Steve, from where he was in season 1, as everybody's like, no, he's not the one Nancy's supposed to be with. It's supposed to be Jonathan, right?
Yeah.
It's supposed to be Jonathan. But I think that his character arc in season 2 of falling in love, or everybody falling in love with the bromance between him and Dustin. Whenever Dustin comes back in this first episode and Steve just bursts out of the back, he's back. And just how happy he was.
Robin goes, how many little kids do you know?
Who are you friends with?
Yeah. And how shameless he was about it.
Yeah.
I think Steve is my favorite character in this entire season.
He's great. He's really good. It's full of so many good moments, right? Like that's why we love it. Like there are all these relationship moments, and yet there's the big overarching adventure moments. It's just so very 80s in so many ways.
I feel like they packed a lot more content into this season than the previous ones.
Maybe that's why it felt like it was over so much quicker. Because not only did they pack a lot into it, they didn't over pack it. You know, it's not like I was like confused. Everything flowed really well. There was a lot happening, so the episodes went by quicker because I was just so involved and, you know, focused on what was going on.
Yeah.
I want to go back and watch it again.
You think about going back to episode 1 where like the women were like by the pool waiting for Billy to come out and so they could like oogle him and stuff like that.
That's a direct reference to Fast Times with the Phoebe Cates coming out of the pool, you know, scene or whatever, reversed on its head.
Yeah, because, you know, wearing the red, you know.
Wearing the red, and then later the Phoebe Cates stand up in the family video.
And Dustin references his girlfriend as Phoebe Cates, but hotter.
Yeah, there's that reference as well. Yeah, you haven't seen the video scene. They apply
for jobs at
jobs at Family Video.
Yeah,
and that was great because he was like, "Okay, your 3 favorite movies, go."
Yeah,
and
she lists off 3 classic movies, you know, which at that time weren't really. They were classics back then, so they like 60s classic movies, you know. And then he's like, what was the movie we just saw?
Got to be Animal House. Animal House has got to be on there. And Star Wars.
We just saw that Back to the Future movie. That was pretty good.
Yeah.
Which, you know, we think of as a classic, but at the time, like, oh, come on. And then he trips over the Phoebe Cates Fast Times swimsuit. Like, you know how a movie, they always had the cardboard cutouts, you know? He's like, oh, Fast Time. Yeah, that's number 3.
Oh man!
Yeah, you just think about those early pool scenes, and then the end scenes that you guys are describing, like how far that show, like that episode 1 feels like it was forever ago, but that just shows you how much they advance in the
well, and they do. I mean, it all takes place over a couple days. You know, it's all over the 4th of July weekend. You know, and that was fascinating too. The big carnival and we haven't talked about the Alexi stuff. Like the Alexi stuff, I thought was
poor
great.
Alexi.
Did you know Alexi died? Did you seen that yet?
No. That's fine.
Yeah, poor Alexi.
That kind of came out of nowhere. Yeah. That kind of surprised me. The Alexi death.
Well, as soon as you see Grigoli, the big Russian guy, walking through, you're like, oh man, because him and Murray had kind of built this camaraderie, which I think is one of the most underappreciated dynamics in this, because you think of Murray as this big conspiracy nut. So anything that should deal with the Russians, he should, you know, loathe, you know, because he's this but he becomes best friends with a Russian spy scientist.
That scene where Hopper was right, where he was like, you know,
driving back.
Yeah, driving back is so good.
Yeah, because everything is like leaning towards him being wrong, you know, like, just give me a moment. And then, you know, Joyce opens the door. He's like, oh, come on. And then, honestly, I thought he was going to be wrong.
Yeah.
Because
he's leaving.
And it's holy is so, he's like, oh, getting in the car. Ooh,
yeah. It's like, what did he say? He said, strawberry's fine.
Yeah.
Oh man, and they're traveling back in the car, and that whole thing where
they're arguing,
Murray just is commenting on their sexual tension. Yeah. It was just so perfect.
And then he's like, they've never had sex.
I know.
And then they both just start laughing in the back. Yeah.
Oh man,
what
good
a great
times.
Season,
right?
Okay, I'm calling it now. Season 3 is the best season.
I feel like that way now. I know it's
without having seen the last 2 episodes, it's already my favorite season. So, from what I've seen.
There you go. Don't ruin it. Don't ruin it with time travel, Stranger Things.
Okay, but
if you're going to use time, you know what? This is the show that could get away with it, right?
Because that's what I was just about to say.
Yeah.
Is this the show that could do it?
Again, because it gets away with the ex machinas. It gets away with the plot conveniences.
Yeah.
It gets away with all that stuff because it's an 80s trope.
Yeah.
And guess what? Time travel that doesn't have to make any sense. That's straight from the 80s, you know?
Yeah.
So it kind of goes back to a world where you can do that stuff.
Yeah. Man, though, I just don't know if we've been inundated with so many movies that, you know, do time travel well. like 12 Monkeys, or
Yeah.
I don't even know if you would call Arrival a time travel movie.
I definitely would. It's at least a time awareness movie that understands the concept.
Yeah.
You know.
But we've had so many movies where we've seen it done so well that if we go back and we look at movies like Back to the Future, or something like that, where now we have this, I quote unquote knowledge, but we've seen it do so well that if we see them try and do a cliche 80s trope, if we can, focus on the trope and be like, yeah, but it's a trope. Or if we're like, yeah, but we've seen it done right.
Yeah.
Because that was our big problem with Avengers.
No, I totally agree, except that I think I know from experience that I'm just forgiving this show for things I would never forgive anything else for.
Yeah.
I say never forgive, but I mean just over
You
and
can
over
overlook.
again. I just overlook it because I'm like, oh man, that is so how an 80s movie would have played that moment. You know what I mean? Like so I think from experience, I think I'll be very, very forgiving when or if they do time travel.
I'm still on the fence if they will, though.
You
make a pretty
I think it's
good
a compelling
case.
Yeah, I think it's a compelling case.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I really have no idea.
Yeah. All we can say is, whew, we recommend. It's not like we're recommending this to anybody. If you're a fan of Stranger Things, I guess the only person this is spoilers,
I think yeah, this is spoilers. So hopefully you have seen it. But taking the point beyond just this broadcast, I think there are plenty of people who haven't seen it. They'd be like, look, it's 8 episodes a season.
Yeah,
it's not bad. It's a nice little bite-sized, kind of thing, and it's really fun. I think there's still people who will pick up on it.
Yeah.
So
like
interesting
Phil,
stuff.
though, I actually might go back to season 1 and just binge the whole thing.
Yeah.
Just skip episode 7 of season 2.
Very nice.
Yeah.
I don't have anything else. Do you have anything else?
No. Man, I loved it.
I mean, I'm sure I'll think of more stuff, that I like, but I think we mentioned all the really
never really
important
talked
stuff.
about Carrie Elwes, really.
Yeah, I mean, he's great. He's great. He served a role. It was fun.
Yeah. I
mean,
he perfectly cast for the mayor.
Yeah.
I don't know when. Maybe it was Twister where he stopped being the charming debonair, charismatic guy to.
I mean, Twister was before Liar Liar, right?
I think so.
Yeah, Liar Liar. He was the same kind of smug, arrogant.
Yeah.
Kind of guy.
He's just good.
He's not really a villain in Liar Liar. He's just
that
naive
guy.
and smug. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
I don't even know if he's a villain in Twister. I think the tornadoes are the villain.
Possibly.
Yeah.
All right. Well, there you go. Thank you so much for listening to the SiftSpoil for Stranger Things 3. We'll be back next week. Probably. I don't know. We won't need to do a SiftSpoil on Lion King.
Probably not.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
But we'll be back when we need to spoil something with you.
Yep.
So we'll see you then.
Bye.